The stars seemed to bend as the massive human battleship, Defiance, dropped out of hyperspace. Its dark hull reflected little light, but its size was impossible to ignore. 3 miles long and bristling with weapons, the Defiance made the nearby alien vessels look like toys. Commander Jack Nelson stood on the bridge, his hands clasped behind his back. After 20 years in the United Earth Navy, this was his most important mission. Humanity was finally ready to meet the galactic community. "Status report," he said, his voice calm despite the tension in the air. Lieutenant Susan Ward looked up from her console. "All systems normal, sir. The alien vessels are keeping their distance. They seem nervous." Jack nodded. He understood why. 50 years ago, an alien force had tried to invade Earth. The invaders thought humans would be easy prey. They were wrong. The war was short but brutal, ending with humanity victorious and the aliens extinct. Since then, Earth had built up its forces, preparing for the next attack that never came. "Open a channel to the Confederate flagship," Jack ordered. The main screen flickered to life, showing a blue-skinned alien with 4 eyes and no visible mouth. Its voice came through the translator. "Human vessel, this is Delegate Zorvan of the Galactic Confederacy. Your size of ship was not expected." Jack smiled politely. "The Defiance is our standard diplomatic vessel. We come in peace and hope to establish friendly relations." The alien's upper eyes blinked rapidly. "We invite a small team to board our station for initial talks." After the transmission ended, Security Chief Paul Baker approached the commander. "I don't like this, sir. They're too nervous." "I know," Jack replied. "But orders are orders. Prepare a shuttle and security team." The meeting station was a neutral zone, a large ring structure with various chambers for different species. Jack led his team inside, where 6 different alien representatives waited. Some looked almost human, others were completely foreign to human eyes. "Welcome to Confederate space," said Zorvan, bowing slightly. "We have many questions about Earth and humanity." Jack began explaining human history and culture, but he noticed the aliens exchanging glances whenever he mentioned Earth's military capabilities. When he described how the Defiance was actually one of the smaller human battleships, one of the aliens, a reptilian being, abruptly left the room. "Is something wrong?" Jack asked. "Not at all," Zorvan replied too quickly. "Please continue." Jack's communicator buzzed. Lieutenant Ward's voice came through. "Commander, we're detecting energy buildups in 3 ships that just arrived. They're charging weapons." "Meeting's over," Jack said, standing up. "We're returning to our ship." Zorvan's 4 eyes widened. "Commander, please. Those are extremists. The Confederacy doesn't want conflict." As Jack's team rushed back to their shuttle, explosions rocked the station. Their shuttle barely escaped as 3 sleek alien warships opened fire on the Defiance. Back on the bridge, Jack watched as his ship's automatic defense systems activated. Point defense lasers cut through space, intercepting incoming missiles. The Defiance's shields glowed but held firm against the attack. "Return fire?" Lieutenant Ward asked, her finger hovering over the weapon's control. Jack hesitated only for a second. "Defensive measures only. Target their weapon systems, minimum force." The Defiance fired once, just once, a single energy pulse that disabled all 3 attacking ships without destroying them. The bridge fell silent as they watched the crippled alien vessels drift powerless. "Send this message to all Confederate channels," Jack ordered. "We came in peace. We still desire peace, but we will defend ourselves. Earth awaits your response." On screens across the galaxy, alien beings watched recordings of the human battleship easily defeating the attackers. And they trembled. 3 days passed with the Defiance floating in space, waiting. Commander Jack Nelson paced the bridge, checking the time again. Still no official response from the Confederate Council, Lieutenant Susan Ward reported. "But our sensors are picking up a lot of ship movement. They're watching us." Jack frowned. The failed diplomatic mission left them in a difficult position. Return to Earth and report failure, or wait and try again. The decision came from an unexpected source. "Commander," called out Communications Officer Lisa Morgan. "I'm picking up a distress signal. It's on a Confederate emergency channel." "Put it through," Jack ordered. The message was mostly static, but they could make out a few words. "Under attack. Scourge fleet. Heavy casualties. Any vessels in range." Jack looked at the star map. The signal came from a small colony planet just 2 jumps away. "Who are these Scourge?" he asked. "Unknown, sir," replied Science Officer Nancy Wright. "But based on Confederate communications we've intercepted, they appear to be a hostile species attacking outer colonies." Jack thought for only a moment. Set course for the colony. Maximum speed. When the Defiance arrived in the colony's system, they found chaos. 3 Confederate defense ships fought against 12 black, spiky vessels. The alien ships moved like insects, quick and deadly. "Those must be the Scourge," Jack said. "Status of the Confederate ships." 2 are heavily damaged, Susan replied. "The 3rd is trying to protect the colony. Population approximately 3 million. Jack straightened his uniform. "Broadcast on all channels. Let's make our intentions clear." He cleared his throat. "This is Commander Jack Nelson of the UEN Defiance. We are responding to your distress call and offering assistance." A surprised voice answered. "Human vessel. This is Commander Kitharin. We are grateful for any help. The Scourge are targeting our defensive grid. We'll handle it," Jack promised. "Defiance out." He turned to his weapons officer. "Target the Scourge vessels. Show them what human weapons can do." The Defiance moved forward, its massive engines pushing it toward the battle. The Scourge ships immediately noticed the newcomer, and 5 broke off to attack. They fired energy weapons that would have destroyed any Confederate ship. Against the Defiance, they merely made the shields glow brighter. "Return fire," Jack ordered calmly. Unlike the defensive response against the Confederate attackers days earlier, this time the Defiance unleashed its full arsenal against the Scourge. Particle beams cut through 3 enemy ships at once. Missile swarms overwhelmed the defenses of another. The remaining Scourge vessels regrouped, clearly surprised by the power of the human ship. They tried a new tactic, moving in patterns too quick and complex for most targeting systems. "They're fast," Susan noted. Jack smiled. "But our AI is faster. Activate ECHO targeting system." The Defiance's advanced artificial intelligence took control of the weapons. It predicted the Scourge movements and fired with perfect timing. 2 more enemy ships exploded. The remaining Scourge vessels suddenly turned and fled, jumping into hyperspace rather than face complete destruction. The bridge crew cheered, but Jack kept his focus. "Damage report." "Minor shield depletion, sir. No damage to the hull," reported Chief Engineer Alan Frost. The colony was saved. The battered Confederate ships approached cautiously. "Commander Nelson," Kitharin's voice came through. "We thank you. Without your help, millions would have died today." Jack nodded. "We're glad we could help. Perhaps," Kitharin said slowly, "we could establish temporary cooperation. The Scourge will return, and many other colonies are in danger." Jack looked around at his crew, seeing determination in their eyes. This wasn't the diplomatic mission they had planned, but it was a start. "We're listening, Commander Kitharin. Tell us more about these Scourge." As the human battleship drifted beside the smaller Confederate vessels, news of its power against the dreaded Scourge spread across subspace channels. Humanity had made its first allies in the galaxy. The UEN Defiance floated alongside 5 Confederate ships, forming an unusual battle group. 1 week had passed since they saved the colony, and tension still hung in the air between the humans and their new allies. Chief Engineer Alan Frost wiped sweat from his forehead as he worked inside a damaged power conduit. 3 blue-skinned alien engineers watched him with all 4 of their eyes wide open. "You touched the plasma lines directly. One alien asked, his translator making his voice sound metallic. Our species would suffer third-degree burns. Ellen shrugged. Human skin is pretty tough. Plus, these gloves help. He tapped a panel, and the power conduit hummed back to life. We build our systems with repairs in mind. Triple backups for everything important. The alien engineers exchanged looks. Their ships were sleek and advanced, but when damaged, they were hard to fix. The human approach was different, rugged, practical, and built to last. Meanwhile, on the bridge, Communications Officer Lisa Morgan struggled to understand Confederate military signals. I don't get it, she said to Commander Jack Nelson. Their battle language has 15 different words just for move forward depending on speed, direction, and intent. Jack nodded. Different evolution, different thinking. Keep working on it. We need to understand them if we're going to fight together. Commander, called out Lieutenant Susan Ward from her station. Confederate command ship is hailing us again. They're requesting inspection of our AI core. Jack frowned. The Confederacy feared advanced artificial intelligence. When they learned that the Defiance's targeting systems were partly controlled by an AI named ECKO, many Confederate officers had become even more nervous around the human ship. Denied, Jack said firmly. Our AI systems are classified. Remind them that ECHO helped save their colony. In the ship's mess hall, Doug Peterson, the AI specialist, found himself surrounded by curious alien officers during a shared meal. Their questions came nonstop. Your AI doesn't try to take over your systems, asked a green-skinned alien with antenna. Doug laughed. ECHO is programmed to protect human life above all else. It's a tool like any other technology, but it thinks for itself. Within limits, Doug explained. It can make decisions faster than humans in combat, but it always follows core directives. The alien officers listened with a mixture of fear and fascination. In Confederate space, AI development was strictly forbidden after a war with machines centuries ago. On the command deck of the Confederate flagship, Commander Kitharan reviewed reports with Captain Jack Nelson. Kitharan's skin shifted color slightly, a sign of stress in his species. Your ship's sensor range is impressive, Kitharan admitted, but we need to discuss strategy. The Scourge rarely attacked the same sector twice. Before Jack could respond, alarm sounded. A junior officer rushed in. Commander, long-range sensors detect a Scourge scout ship at the edge of the system. Kitharan looked surprised. Impossible. Our sensors show nothing. Jack tapped his communicator. Defiance, this is Nelson. Confirm Scourge presence. Confirmed, Susan's voice replied. Our sensors picked it up hiding behind the third moon. Small vessel, likely gathering intelligence. The Confederate officers stared at Jack, newfound respect in their eyes. Human sensor technology had just proven far superior to their own. We should capture it, Kitharan suggested. Learn their plans. Jack nodded. Agreed. But the Defiance will leave the operation. As they planned the mission, word spread through the Confederate fleet about the human ship's capabilities. The anxiety about humans was still there, but now mixed with something new, hope. Security Chief Paul Baker prepared his team for the coming mission. We're going to show them how humans hunt, he told his Marines. And then we're going to find out exactly what these Scourge want. The Defiance's engines glowed as it moved silently toward the moon, where the enemy scout ship hid. The first true test of human combat tactics in Confederate space was about to begin. The emergency alarm blared throughout the Defiance. Commander Jack Nelson rushed to the bridge, where Lieutenant Susan Ward was already reviewing tactical displays. The Scourge scout sent a signal before we could capture it, she reported. Our sensors are detecting multiple hyperspace signatures approaching. Big ones. Jack's face hardened. How many? At least 20 ships, Susan replied. And they're heading straight for the Confederate shipyard in this system. The shipyard was massive. A sprawling structure where the Confederacy built and repaired their vessels. 3,000 workers lived there, with minimal defenses. Alert Commander Kitharan, Jack ordered. Tell him we're moving to defend the shipyard. Minutes later, Kitharan's worried face appeared on the main screen. We have only 7 warships in the area. The Scourge fleet will overwhelm us. Not if we work together, Jack said confidently. The Defiance will take point position. In the medical bay, Officer Karen Miller prepared for casualties. She organized her team of human doctors and welcomed Confederate medical officers who came aboard to help. Our physiology is different, a 6-limbed alien doctor explained. But trauma care has universal principles. Karen nodded. Let's hope we don't need to test that today. Meanwhile, Security Chief Paul Baker ran training sessions with a mixed group of human and Confederate Marines. He demonstrated human combat tactics, aggressive, direct, and coordinated. You fight like predators, observed a reptilian Confederate officer. Paul grinned. That's because we are. The Scourge fleet arrived suddenly, their black ships emerging from hyperspace like a swarm of angry insects. They outnumbered the defenders 3-1. All hands, battle stations, Jack announced calmly. Execute Battle Plan Delta. The Defiance surged forward, positioning itself between the Scourge fleet and the shipyard. Confederate ships formed a second line of defense, following the human ship's lead. The Scourge attacked immediately, concentrating fire on the Defiance. Energy weapons and missiles struck the human battleship from all sides. Shields at 60%, reported Engineer Alan Frost from his station. But holding. Return fire, Jack ordered. Target their lead vessels. The Defiance's main batteries fired, cutting through 2 Scourge ships. The battle became chaotic as smaller vessels maneuvered around the human battleship, looking for weaknesses. Confederate flagship is hit. Susan called out. They've lost propulsion and weapons. Jack made a quick decision. Patch me through to all Confederate vessels. I'm taking command of the fleet. On every Confederate ship, alien officers watched in surprise as the human commander began issuing orders. His strategy was unlike anything in their tactical manuals. Instead of defensive positions, he ordered aggressive, coordinated attacks. The Defiance took heavy damage but remained operational. When 3 Scourge ships surrounded a Confederate vessel, the human battleship charged forward, scattering the enemies with its superior firepower. Suddenly, alarms sounded from the shipyard. Commander, called out Susan. The shipyard's reactor is destabilizing from damage. If it blows, it will take out everything in this system. Can we evacuate? Jack asked. No time, Susan replied. Someone needs to manually reset the safety systems. Jack looked at the tactical display. The shipyard was surrounded by Scourge ships. I'll lead a team, Lieutenant Ward volunteered. We can use the shuttle's stealth systems to get through. Jack nodded grimly. Go. We'll create a diversion. As Susan left with a small team, the Defiance charged directly at the Scourge formation, drawing their attention away from the shipyard. The Confederate ships, following Jack's orders, attacked from multiple angles, creating chaos and confusion. Inside the shipyard, Susan and her team faced intense heat and radiation levels that would kill most Confederate species. Using their environment suits, the humans pushed through to the reactor core. Human biology has its advantages, Susan muttered as she worked on the overheating reactor. Like being too stubborn to die. The reactor stabilized just as the Scourge began to retreat. Their remaining ships jumped to hyperspace, leaving behind their destroyed vessels and a battered but victorious defense fleet. On the Defiance's damaged bridge, Jack received the good news. Shipyard secure. Lieutenant Ward's team successful. As reports came in, it became clear the humans had changed the course of the battle. The Confederacy had witnessed Earth warfare firsthand, and the galaxy would never be the same. The UEN Defiance floated in a massive repair dock at the Confederate shipyard. 2 weeks had passed since the battle, and the human battleship still showed scars from the fight. Repair crews worked day and night, a mix of humans and various alien species learning to work together. Commander Jack Nelson sat in a conference room with representatives from 12 different Confederate worlds. The large, circular table was designed to accommodate beings of various sizes and shapes. Some floated in special anti-gravity chairs, others stood on platforms, but all eyes were focused on the human commander. "We need the Defiance to protect our mining colony," insisted a blue-skinned delegate. "No, our agricultural world is more important," argued another with 4 arms. "Without food production, the Confederacy starves." Jack rubbed his temples. Since the battle, the Defiance had become a symbol of power and protection. Every world wanted the human battleship for themselves. "We cannot be everywhere at once," Jack explained patiently. "But we can teach your forces our defensive strategies." Outside the conference room, Science Officer Nancy Wright worked with Confederate scientists, examining data from captured Scourge technology. Her eyes widened as she studied the results of their tests. "This can't be right," she muttered. She turned to her alien colleague. "Run the analysis again." The jellyfish-like scientist's tentacles moved over the controls. "The results are the same. The Scourge have been modifying their shields specifically to resist human weapons." Nancy frowned. "How could they adapt so quickly?" Unless they've been studying humans for longer than we thought." The alien scientist finished her thought. Meanwhile, in the engineering section of the Defiance, weapons specialist Gray Harrison examined Confederate weapon systems with Chief Engineer Alan Frost. "Their approach is completely different from ours," Greg observed. "They use energy fields we've never seen before." Alan nodded. "But combine their targeting technology with our power output, and we have something new," Greg finished, excitement in his voice. "Something the Scourge wouldn't be prepared for." On the command deck, Communications Officer Lisa Morgan brought worrying news to Commander Nelson as he returned from the difficult meeting. "Sir, we're receiving distress calls from 3 different Confederate worlds. Scourge attack fleets have been spotted near all of them." Jack studied the star map, his face grim. The worlds were in different directions, days apart even at maximum speed. "They're testing us," he realized. "They know we can't be everywhere at once." Lieutenant Susan Ward looked up from her tactical console. "Which world do we help, sir?" The weight of the decision pressed down on Jack's shoulders. Millions of lives hung in the balance. This was not what their diplomatic mission was supposed to become. "The agricultural world has the highest population," he said finally. "We go there, and we'll send tactical data packages to the other worlds to help their defenses." As the Defiance prepared to depart, Commander Kitharan approached Jack privately. "Some in the Confederate Council fear you," the alien commander admitted. "They say humans might be as dangerous as the Scourge." Jack stared out at the stars. "And what do you think?" Kitharan's skin changed colors slightly. "I think that fear keeps one alive, but wisdom knows when to make allies of the powerful." "We don't want to rule your confederacy," Jack assured him. "We just want to survive." "Perhaps," Kitharan said carefully, "but your arrival has changed everything. Many worlds now look to Earth for protection, not the Confederate Council." As the massive engines of the Defiance powered up, Jack watched repair crews scramble to finish their work. The ship was not fully healed, but there was no time. Another battle awaited them. In her lab, Nancy Wright stared at her findings again. The Scourge weren't just adapting to human technology. They seemed to have anticipated it. But how? Unless someone had given them information about Earth long before the Defiance arrived. The mystery deepened as the human battleship once again moved into harm's way, carrying the hopes of millions of aliens who just weeks earlier had feared humanity's arrival. The agricultural world was safe, but at a cost. The UEN Defiance had taken more damage, and 20 crew members were injured in the battle. Commander Jack Nelson stood in the medical bay, visiting his wounded personnel as Medical Officer Karen Miller worked tirelessly. "They'll recover," Karen assured him. "Human bodies are remarkably resilient." Jack nodded, but worry lined his face. The Scourge attacks were becoming more coordinated, more focused on exploiting weaknesses in human systems. Something wasn't right. On the bridge, Communications Officer Lisa Morgan made a breakthrough. "Commander," she called out when Jack returned, "I've been analyzing Scourge communications from our battles. Look at this pattern." Jack studied the data on her screen. The strange symbols meant nothing to him. "What am I looking at?" he asked. "It's a repeating pattern in their transmissions," Lisa explained. "At first I thought it was just noise, but it's too regular. And here's the strange part. It contains mathematical constants that we use on Earth." Jack felt a chill run down his spine. "They're using human math principles in their communications." "Yes, sir. And there's more. Some phrases, when translated, seem to reference Earth directly." Before Jack could process this information, Navigator Eric Bell interrupted. "Sir, our long-range sensors have detected unusual energy readings. It doesn't match any known Confederate or Scourge signature." Jack made a quick decision. Plot a course. "Let's check it out before the Scourge Armada reaches the next target." The Defiance traveled for 2 days to reach the source of the energy readings. What they found hidden in an asteroid field shocked everyone. A small Scourge facility, carefully concealed. "It's some kind of research station," Susan reported from her tactical station. "Minimal defenses." Jack ordered a small team to infiltrate the facility. Lieutenant Susan Ward led the mission, along with Engineer Alan Frost and Security Chief Paul Baker. "Stay alert," Susan warned as their shuttle approached under stealth mode. "This feels too easy." The team entered the facility through a maintenance airlock. Inside, they found no Scourge soldiers, only automated systems and research equipment. "Look at this," Alan said, pointing to a wall covered with star charts. "That's our solar system. They've been watching Earth." Paul discovered a room filled with what appeared to be human artifacts, things taken from Earth over many years. "Some of these look centuries old," he observed, holding up what appeared to be a Soviet-era radio component. In the central chamber, Susan found databases filled with information. She quickly copied as much as she could to a portable drive. "We need to get this back to the ship," she said urgently. "There's too much to analyze here." As they prepared to leave, the facility's systems suddenly activated. A countdown appeared on all screens. "Self-destruct sequence," Ellen shouted. They knew we'd find this place. The team raced back to their shuttle, barely escaping as the facility exploded behind them. Back on the Defiance, they analyzed the stolen data. What they found stunned everyone. "The Scourge have been monitoring Earth for over 300 years, Susan reported to the gathered officers. "They'd been collecting our radio transmissions, our television broadcasts, even samples of our technology." "But why?" asked Jack. Science Officer Nancy Wright looked up from her analysis. "Sir, according to these files, the Scourge have been at war with the Confederacy for a specific purpose, to weaken them before humans arrived in galactic space. They've been preparing for us," Jack realized. "Their attacks on the Confederacy were just to isolate Earth when we finally developed interstellar travel." Communications Officer Lisa found one last piece of the puzzle in the data. "Commander, I found references to something they call the First Contact. It seems the Scourge sent scouts to Earth centuries ago." Jack suddenly understood. The alien invasion 50 years ago. That wasn't the First Contact. The Scourge had been to Earth before. The bridge fell silent as the truth sank in. The Defiance hadn't accidentally stumbled into a galactic war. Humans had been the target all along. "Alert Confederate Command," Jack ordered grimly, "and prepare the ship for battle. We need to be ready when their main fleet arrives." The Confederate Council chamber fell silent as Commander Jack Nelson finished presenting the evidence. The holographic displays showed the data recovered from the Scourge facility, proof that Earth had been their target all along. "They've been studying us for centuries," Jack explained to the gathered alien representatives. "Learning our weaknesses, our strengths. The war with your Confederacy was just preparation." Many council members looked skeptical. A tall bird-like alien spoke up. "This is convenient for humans. You arrive in our space, and suddenly you claim to be the center of this conflict. Commander Kith Aaron stood from his seat, his skin rippled with colors of determination. I have fought alongside these humans. I have seen their courage. The evidence is clear. The Scourge fear human potential. Before the debate could continue, alarms sounded throughout the station. A junior officer rushed into the chamber. The Scourge Armada has been detected, he announced. 30 warships approaching the central Confederate world of Nexus Prime. Population: 4 billion. Jack turned to the council. There's no time for politics. Will you fight with us, or shall we stand alone? One by one, the representatives nodded their agreement. Within hours, a combined fleet gathered. 7 Confederate battle cruisers, 15 support vessels, and at the center, the UEN Defiance, still showing scars from previous battles. On the bridge, Jack addressed his crew. The Scourge want humanity isolated and weak. They fear what we might become. Today we show them they were right to fear us. The human battleship moved into position at the front of the Allied fleet. The Scourge Armada appeared at the edge of the system, their black ships moving in perfect formation, led by a massive command vessel 3 times larger than any they had encountered before. They've been saving their best for last, observed Lieutenant Susan Ward from her tactical station. So have we, Jack replied calmly. Activate all weapon systems. The battle began with a devastating attack from the Scourge. Their weapons seemed specifically designed to penetrate human shields. The Defiance shuddered under the assault. Shield strength failing, reported engineer Alan Frost from his station. They've adapted to our frequencies. Throughout the ship, human crew members worked with desperate efficiency. In engineering, weapons specialist Greg Harrison activated the new hybrid system they had developed with Confederate technology. Ready to deploy countermeasures, he reported. Jack gave the order. Do it. The Defiance released a wave of energy unlike anything seen before in Confederate space, a combination of human power generation and alien field manipulation. It washed over the Scourge ships, disrupting their carefully calibrated systems. It's working, Susan called out. Their shields are fluctuating. The Confederate ships pressed the advantage, concentrating fire on the weakened enemy vessels. But the massive Scourge command ship pushed forward, focusing all its weapons on the Defiance. The human battleship's hull glowed red-hot from energy impacts. Systems failed across the ship. One option left, Jack said grimly. He opened a channel to all Allied ships. Pull back. We're deploying the main cannon. The Confederate vessels retreated as the Defiance's damaged hull split open, revealing a massive weapon that had remained hidden until now. Divert all power to the Omega cannon, Jack ordered. But sir, protested Alan, at our current power levels, firing might overload our systems. Jack's expression was resolute. Then we go down fighting. Energy built up along the spine of the human battleship. The Scourge command ship seemed to recognize the threat, attempting to retreat. Fire, Jack ordered. A beam of blinding light shot from the Defiance, cutting through space itself. It struck the Scourge command ship, tearing it in half. The explosion sent shockwaves through the remaining enemy fleet. In the aftermath, the surviving Scourge vessels flowed into hyperspace. The Defiance floated silently, systems barely functioning but victorious. As emergency repairs began, Commander Kith Aaron's ship docked alongside. The alien commander stepped onto the Defiance's bridge and approached Jack. The Confederate Council has voted, Kith Aaron announced. Earth is invited to join the Galactic Confederacy, not as a member, but as a protector. Jack looked around at his exhausted but proud crew. We came seeking diplomatic relations. It seems we found our place in the galaxy anyway. Across Confederate space, beams of 1,000 worlds watched recordings of the battle. The message spread quickly. A new power had arrived in the galaxy, humanity, and all who threatened them would tremble.